Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I gotta fix my view thing here. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Mark Isaac Potter Presents. Today we have the distinct honor of speaking to Suzanne KZ Sh, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She is, in my opinion, at the very least, if not many other people, she's one of the great people right now on earth. She is doing a lot of great work, a lot of leveraged work that will result in other people being trained to do good work. And we're hoping to do a series of, I think today we're only going to do 500 shows, but maybe tomorrow we'll do another 500. Anyway, Suzanne, welcome to the show, my dear. Tell us a little about yourself, if you'd like to. We'd like to know a little about you as a person here on the first show. If you can, tell us a little about where you grew up and all that kind of stuff, if you want. I know you've got a ton of education and all that. We will get to all that stuff too. Go ahead.
I grew up in Mount Kisco, New York, went to Chapel Schools. This is in Westchester County, New York, a little bit north of New York City, about an hour north. And I was really lucky in the sense that we had really great public schools. When I was a kid, I had a lot of learning disabilities, actually. It's pretty interesting history, quite frankly. When I came into the world, my mom was actually on a bunch of tranquilizers. And so what happened was I got the learning disabilities probably because of that. She was on the tranquilizers. I had a brother who was dying of leukemia. I never knew him. I was 2 months old when he passed.
Yeah.
But in 1961, they didn't really know a whole lot about medication going through umbilical cords and breast milk, all that kind of stuff. So I never developed speech like normal people do. So I don't know, 3 or 4 years old, I remember going down to visit my Aunt B down in Washington, D.C. She was a speech pathologist in the Washington, D.C. school systems. And she gave me a test and told my parents to wait until I was 5 before we started speech therapy, which is what they did. Year of speech therapy, and they could never shut me up after that. And I always like to joke that that's how I became a hypnotist, because hypnotists never shut up. We're always educating people. We're always talking. Our work is done by talking. Right? So it's a pretty interesting, I don't know, way to think about life, in terms of having the inability of doing something and then getting to a business. That's all you do consistently and constantly and educate people. But I went to Curry College and I studied elementary ed with moderate special needs, poli-sci history. I never taught in a classroom. I absolutely hated all the politics. I had a real nasty teacher in my, what do you call it? My senior year, in terms of going into her 5th grade classroom and stuff to do the practicum. But I did a interesting research subject, actually, that the director of the program gave me instead, so I could still graduate with my degree in teaching, even if not licensed. And that was testing a lot of kids to see how they were doing in school and stuff. And that was actually way more interesting to my mind. And I wrote up a whole big report, and that was pretty cool. And I also won the education award, even though I didn't get licensed in education, along with a friend of mine who did win the education award for education. I got one for running the education resource room, going above and beyond. So that was pretty cool. In any case, it's been a pretty long road to get to where I am now, quite frankly, because after college, actually, and you don't know this about me, so this is new information. After college, my dad passed away, left a very complicated estate. I had a lot of problems dealing with it. The accountant wouldn't help me, the lawyer wouldn't help me with it. And I actually had switched into having what they called at the time manic depression, which they would now call bipolar 2. So, thank God. And it took quite a while to get it diagnosed. And about 3 years later, I was what they call chemically stabilized. And I did a couple of informational interviews, and I ended up getting a job in this really wonderful situation. It paid nothing, $7.24 an
Yeah, oh
hour,
yeah. No, I've been
right? But
my
it's
first job paid 90 cents an hour, so
okay, so we understand.
I'm there with you.
I should have been making more though, given the college degree at the time. But it
Yeah.
didn't really matter because we had almost 200 clients coming in and out of the
Hmm.
clubhouse for adults
Oh, it says
18 and
I'm
over.
muted here. My side says can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Huh. Why in God's name?
I don't know.
Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry to
So,
interrupt you, honey.
so anyway, this was a clubhouse for mentally ill adults, and we had almost 200 clients coming out of the building where it was located, which really gave me a very quick understanding of dealing with mentally ill adults who had many major mental illnesses, a lot of them with more than one diagnosed.
Okay, okay.
And if you ever worked with borderline personality disorder people or people with addictions, they can get very angry and very nasty. So you either learn how to deal with them
I'm
and deal
only
with
laughing because you don't know my history.
it. All right.
When
So
you
you know something about
when you learn that, you're going to have a big something, laugh or cry or something.
that.
I've got so many. I've been in psychiatric hospitals somewhere between 10 and 15 times. I have 6 pieces to my diagnosis.
Oh,
So,
so you comprehend exactly what I'm saying here when you're dealing
yeah, oh yeah, I've been
with
in I
disorders.
lived in psychiatric hospitals. So go ahead.
Well, luckily I never had to work in one, and luckily I never had to be in one. But seriously, although I did visit some of my clients from other programs I worked in after that, to bring them the stuff that they needed from their homes. But in any
Mhm.
case, what was really fascinating about working in this place was actually having really great mentors, and they taught me how to have very clear boundaries, not to take on my clients' problems of my own, and to be very clear with them with what was okay, what was not okay. And
Right, right, right.
that's really important. And I think this is a problem that a lot of people who get into mental health never freaking learn because they don't have any boundaries. They take on a lot of the problems that people have, or they want to
Yeah,
boss the clients around. Neither
and
of these things
they're
are their
gonna they think
jobs.
they're gonna fix these people, and you cannot fix it. You just have to. I think
Well,
it's a maintenance thing. You just have to maintenance
well,
it.
I have a different kind of take on it, and I'll explain all
Okay.
that,
All
in
right.
terms of why I got into hypnotism.
All right.
Because in some cases you cannot fix it, you do have to maintain it. That's for people with personality disorders. And I'm not talking
Yeah.
about just some symptoms of personality disorder. I mean, full-blown personality disorders. There was a
Right.
gentleman from Cora who had an argument with me about this. He was actually a PhD psychologist, and it was really funny because he wanted to make his point that people with borderline personality disorder could be fixed. And he said in an article that stated they could not be. So I sent him his article back. I said, look, you have an article right here that tells you exactly what I said. They cannot be fixed. Sorry, impossible. I know I was raised by one who tried very hard to be
Oh.
fixed. Doesn't work. But that being said, I really had a gift for working with people with psychiatric issues. And that particular position only was for 1 year. So then I went into working with supported housing programs with mentally ill people. And this is when I found that the directors of these programs really had no clue what they were doing. They wanted to boss people around and just didn't want to hear what they had to say or take any of their input and stuff. It was really terrible. So from there, I thought maybe nursing
I'm
school would be
sorry
good.
you had to live through that over and over. That's,
Oh, no,
you know,
well, it was okay. It was a learning process. So I did
oh,
3 of them and I said, that's enough. I went to nursing school. I learned a whole lot about how the body and mind work together. Some stuff about psychology that was actually helpful. Most of it isn't. It's a bunch of garbage, as far
right,
as I'm
right,
concerned.
right, right.
But life cycle psychology is very interesting because it teaches you where a person's supposed to be emotionally developed at what stage in life, like at what chronological age. And when you work with people with addictions, like I do, not
Right.
drug addicts at this point, but sex addicts and people with anorexia and bulimia, considered addictions because
All that,
they're
yeah.
all running the dopamine to the point where
Oh yeah.
the
Yeah,
receptors don't
yeah.
work anymore. It's
You
really
know it. You know
no.
it. Yeah.
So basically, what I was able to do was to take all this knowledge and realize I wanted a non-pathological way of looking at my clients, not to make every normal
Okay.
human emotion a pathology. As one
Right.
of the professors in one of my master's programs told me, she said she went in to see her psychologist because she lost one of her children to death.
Okay.
And she didn't want to have a diagnosis. It's a
Right.
human emotion. And she told me that privately because of the stuff I had raised in the course regarding my beliefs
Yeah.
and my philosophies of healing. So basically, I got to the point where I got into hypnotism. It's holistic. We use the mind. And what we have to understand about a lot of these problems, I'm talking about depression, anxiety, OCD, and other such things where people are procrastinating. You know, people want to do the things that they want to do, but they don't know why they're not able to do those things. And then we have people who aren't doing the things that they need to do, like a client of in Alignable who was procrastinating forever on getting his proposals out stuff into debt.
Don't even get me started.
Well, that had to do with depression. Okay. In his case, it was depression causing the problem. So symptom and then the real problem. Okay. So we have to understand why people are not able to do the things. But with hypnosis, the beautiful thing is we understand it's in the subconscious mind. Now, the subconscious mind is really the amygdala. This is where our emotions reside, and our hippocampus, where our very imperfect memories reside. So when we go into that place instead of the prefrontal cortex, which is what these licensed counselors do, we're going to the place where people can be shifted. You cannot work with a person in their prefrontal cortex. So they're reasoning, they're judging, they really have a hard time really dealing with the realities that they're dealing with. They'll make the excuses as to why they cannot do anything that their counselors want them to do. So I get rid of all that crap by going to the subconscious mind. But I take it a step further and I bring them into what Carl Jung would call the collective unconscious. They're divine. And the reason you want to do that is you want all the subconscious mind out of the way so the defense mechanisms are no longer a bother. And it's a simple little suggestion that I give folks to get them up there, and we're able to help them clear their problems pretty quickly and effectively. So as you said in your intro, I really want licensed mental health professionals to learn hypnotism. We've known since the 1700s, people, 1700s, how to help people heal from neurosis. That's what they call these mental problems back then, usually on women, because I always said women had neurosis because, you know, women
well, that was common then and still a little bit. So,
well, men are less likely to go in for help because they would rather drink or drug themselves. All right. So tell me maybe that's what was going on with you. I don't know, but this is what happens with men. They don't want to talk about their problems. They just want to medicate it so they don't have to deal with it. So basically, what we also know is that when Sigmund Freud started to study hypnotism, he could never figure out how to do it. And he was very smart, actually. He wanted to create a therapy that he could market under his own thing, which is what we see a lot of hypnotists doing today, where they create these names of these things that they do, which is just all hypnosis. There's a few certain types. There's Ericksonian from Milton Erickson. He did teach us some stuff, and there's Elmanian from Dave Ellman, and there's other people that we studied through the years. But it's all hypnosis, people. You don't need a certain type of hypnosis. You need a hypnosis.
Well, but when they brand it, they get some advantages about running it as a business and making money.
I know, and it's all
that's why they do it. They don't do it because it's helping the client. They do it because
I understand that. I understand
makes
that
them
very
a bunch of money, as you already know. I mean, Sugarfoot,
yeah, I know that, and it's really not okay. And then you have these other people who call it meditation. People, hypnosis is meditation with a purpose. It's not meditation. Meditation is concentrating your breath, letting your thoughts come in, acknowledging them, letting them go. And it puts you in a very relaxed state. It's a very different thing in the sense of the objectives. When someone does hypnosis, they're doing hypnosis in order to heal something or to do something differently. Like, you know, there's people who do hypnosis for business. You know, they help people to be able to make sales better or in business. And there's people who do performance hypnosis. These are stagecraft guys. And yes, it is real. And yes, these people have to know who is under hypnosis and who is not. And they have to figure out very quickly, because you can have a really crappy show if you allow the people to be on that stage who are not in the state. And they're looking for the somnambulists. The somnambulists are the people who make the show work, because those are the people who take it in as reality. All right, so 10% of the population can do that.
Lord.
They make it really, really fun. And you know, really, really fun if you have a hypnotist who is really good at what they do. And it takes interacting with them, not just giving them suggestions, but really interacting with them and getting their responses and stuff. So I guess what I could say at this point, I'm doing a doctorate right now in psychology, not because I not because I believe in in psychology per se,
yeah,
but
but you
because,
want the accreditation because people are stupid. They're not
well,
gonna
with the
they're
accreditation, yeah,
not gonna
basically.
listen to you until you beat
Well,
them over
yeah,
the
that's
head
one thing.
with
It's to get
your
the credential, definitely. But more than that, it's to prove that the training I developed in my master's in instructional design and technology is able to be transferred to other people learning from me how to do this, especially with the anorexics, bulimics, and sex addicts, because these are the
right.
people that I've really innovated with. I've had people going back to, I don't know, 2005 who are still doing really great. They haven't looked back, and they don't have their problems. And if you talk to psychologists, psychiatrists, they'll tell you they can only manage their symptoms and are stuck with this forever. No, they are
Yeah.
not. I'm here to tell you that it's not the way it needs to be. You need to open your freaking eyes, learn how to do the things that work. And that is what my movement is in the world of psychology. Because, the world of
Oh,
psychology
very
isn't really
nice.
taken as being too serious these days. I can't tell you how many people I met you on Alignable, how many people I've talked to on Alignable who agree with me because they've been through it and they know it doesn't.
Well, like I said, I spent a lot of time in psychiatric hospitals.
And what was your experience while you were in those psychiatric?
Well, it varied. The first
Sure.
one I was in, unfortunately, was one of the worst, and it was what's thought of as one of the best hospitals in the world.
Always.
I won't name the hospital. I'd love to because I still hate those people, but yeah, that was terrible. Then, I not only have I been in a lot of hospitals, but I've been in many of them several times each. So I was in El Camino here. Well, this is all here in the South Bay of San Francisco. Good Sam 2 or 3 times. Stanford Hospital, Fremont, Washington Hospital, uh, the county hospital. Uh, I can't even remember the others,
Did
but
any of them help you at all?
I think it was just temporary, frankly. And I think it's always gonna. The best psychiatrist I ever had heard my story. Like I was beaten at age 2 with a baseball bat,
Wow.
and so doctors, regular doctors, have said to me several times, "We cannot figure out why you're still alive." And so when this psychiatrist, which is the only psychiatrist I ever had that actually listened, most of them don't,
No, they don't. They take their credit.
most of them really don't. And they sit at their desk and look at the computer, the worst communicators you can find anywhere. And so this guy said, I think in your situation, rather than us trying to get you quote unquote better, let's just look at maintenance. Let's try to maintain you at a level of life similar to where you're at when you're healthy nowadays. And that's what I've done for the last 40 years. And it's worked better than all the crap. And I had a great experience one day with some therapists. God knows I've been in therapy every month of my life probably. Uh, a therapist said blah blah blah, and you got to let go and all this. And I said, you know what? I am never letting go. I'm invested in not letting go. It's better for me not to let, et cetera, et cetera. And I went on and on. And for me, that was really an epiphany. That's just not how my mind works. I'm keeping these memories and I'm reframing them and
Exactly.
I'm reimagining them.
Exactly.
But
That's what we do in hypnosis.
I'm sure as hell not going to just be able to say goodbye to something as brutal as, like I was raped, I was almost murdered, uh, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
My
Everything
philosophy,
and more. So, I mean,
Mark,
yes, ma'am.
this is the thing, okay? when I work with my clients in hypnosis, I don't want them to forget anything because you never want to be
Thank
in a
you.
situation like that again.
Thank you very much.
Exactly. But there's a lot of positive learnings that we can gain from these experiences so that we can reframe it, as you said, in a positive light to find
Right.
our strength, our character, and the things that we need to know about ourselves in order to be able to control our life's destiny. And that
Yeah.
is what I do with my
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah.
Forgiveness is a part of it because you don't want to hang on to the anger. It causes heart attacks and other things. But you never
Right.
get these things. So there's a difference there. And this is what I find all too often with people with these fancy degrees. They don't listen, they demean, they direct, they boss around, and they really don't understand, especially if someone's on medication that's causing side effects.
Yeah.
Hello, you're not the one who's
Yeah.
living with these side
Yeah.
effects. You need to
Yeah.
help these people get off the shit because if you do not, they can cause more problems. And yet these
Yeah.
psychiatrists and people who hand out
Well,
the
and the side
it
effect thing is really serious because,
can be.
medicine is such a, I don't know, pharmaceuticals are weird and we don't understand so much about the human body still. I
No, we
mean,
don't.
we really do. I learned some stuff. I don't even remember what it was, but about the intricacies of the body and how it works to the point where I'm like, oh my God, we don't even know. They're now saying that the brain might be doing a lot of its work in the area of quantum physics, using quantum physics. And it's just amazing to me that we never knew that before just a few years back because quantum physics wasn't that thought of about that much. So
They didn't really
anyway,
understand it back then, actually, in terms of what it is, which is really meaning that we're all of one is really what that's all about, and everything's all connected.
yeah. The whole thing of something changing, two electrons changing simultaneously over light years of distance,
Exactly. So,
like that. Yeah.
but I think in a more rational sense, we do know enough to know how to help people heal. I've been doing it very successfully since 2002. Thank you very much. And it's not based on quantum physics. It's based on listening to my clients. It is based on actually hearing what they are saying they need. It is based on
Shocking.
being
So
willing to
shocking.
go to where they need to go when they're ready to go there and not deciding for them what they need. They know what they need. If we'd
Yeah.
shut up and listen, we'd be able to help
Yeah.
them. So that
Yeah.
is really where I come in. And certainly when a person is in their subconscious, even higher conscious mind, they're able to make those connections they can't do in their so-called conscious mind when they're working out of the prefrontal cortex. So we need to
Yeah.
understand that people can be healed, that
Okay,
people
that's
have a
our
right to be healed.
yes. There's our signal. We've went quite a long time on this interview, so we're gonna wrap this one, and then here let me get that rid of that. Let's wrap this interview, and then we will. This machine, the way Zoom works, it's not my machine, but the way the program works is we have to log out completely and wait 2 or 3 minutes and then log back in to do the next show. Otherwise, it just jams them all together.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been my distinct honor, and I believe yours as well, to begin to know, I will say, Dr. Kellner Zink, because she will soon have her doctorate. Uh, just an amazing lady. I have big visions for things she can do in the world. I see her having her own institute and deeply training health professionals in a way that they've never been trained before. So, did you give what contact information do you give the public, Suzanne?
I give my email generally in my
Okay,
website.
why don't you do that verbally here at the end at least? So next time we'll do it in the front and the back.
Okay. It's Suzanne, Suzanne, at Dawning, DAWN as in Nancy, IN as in Nancy, G, Visions, seeing lots of stuff. V as in Victor, ISIONS.com. And the website's easy. It's dawningvisions.com.
Great.
Lots of information on there. It's getting redone right now, but there's a ton of information on there.
Good, good, good. All right, folks, we'll see you in just a few minutes. Suzanne, I'll see you in just a few minutes, okay? 3 to 5 minutes, I would say. It's 12:08. So I'm going to come back between 12:11 and 12:13, something like that.
Okay, good enough. See you in a few.
All right, be right back. Yeah. Okay.